Ooh ah, ooh ah, ooh ah, ooh ah. Come on now, bring them margaritas. Come on now, bring them margaritas. I mean, that isn't... I've put as much effort into remembering that as Kevin Smith put into writing this script, so fuck you.
Hi guys, and welcome to the 4th episode of the Let's Watch Horror podcast. You're here with me, Ruby, my very good friend Manny.
Hello, mate.
And my very, very good friend Rob.
Hello, everyone.
And we just watched the 2014 film by Kevin Smith, Tusk.
Yes, we did.
Yes, we did. It was interesting.
It was indeed.
What did you guys make of this?
I watched it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw you watch it.
Did I enjoy it?
That's the question, mate.
I enjoyed the start.
Yeah.
I knew about this film before we watched it from Manny.
Well, this is on you, actually.
Yeah.
If you listened to last week's episode, listeners, you will know that Rob gave me virtually no choice in this.
It was your prize.
My prize was to be told what film we were going to be doing this week. Yeah, so blame on you.
Yep. You know what? I'm still glad I saw it.
Yeah?
I wanted to see it since I heard about it. You know, Kevin Smith making a film about a man being turned into a walrus based on a podcast episode he did.
Uh-huh.
What was the podcast? What's the podcast he has, Manny?
The Smodcast,
Yeah.
I think it's called. Yeah.
And is it true that one episode is based on them just basically creating this film?
Well, they found an ad on Gumtree, which was actually placed there by a British comedian from Brighton, if I'm not mistaken, in which he said that he would offer someone living arrangements to live with him as long as they played the part of a walrus, and they lived as a walrus, which led to them sort of shooting the shit about what hypothetically this is all about, what this guy wants, the reasons for this, and they came up with this whole insane story. To which Kevin Smith then put out a tweet saying to his followers, if you'd like me to make this film, tweet out #walrus yes, and if you would not like me to make this film, tweet out #walrus no. And
Walrus no.
and as I'm sure you can figure out, you know the end result of that poll, and here we are 4 years later, having just watched this film in inverted quotes. I mean, it
is a film. You can't really argue with that. It is technically a film.
Yes.
It is. It's a full feature-length movie.
It is.
So do you think that's where we get the based on actual events from? Is that they found an ad about this?
Yes.
And that's why at the start we get the based on actual events.
That's why they can just about get away with putting that there, isn't it? I mean, that has been put in front of some very questionable films in the past, in terms of their truthfulness
and their legitimacy as true stories, especially horror movies, like exorcism movies, which claim that it's based on true events, and then half the film is like explosions and things flying through the air and people
coming back from the dead.
Yeah, no, all completely real, guys.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
I do love those kind of films, though. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Slightly on your own there, babe.
Yeah. So that clearly is a joke. This whole film is a bit of a joke, really.
The film is a joke, yeah.
I'd say the film kind of feels like an in-joke. It does feel as though I'm not privy to every piece of every joke, because it's such a thing for his followers. Maybe that's what we need to do, is listen to all the hundreds of episodes of this podcast in order to really appreciate this joke, but we haven't, so we're coming at this from maybe an ignorant perspective, but
maybe. And I mean, yeah, I can totally see where that's coming from, actually. When I think about it, if I was a fanatical Kevin Smith fan, I listened to his podcast religiously, and this was something that I'd heard, at the time, I would definitely be into it. I totally get that mentality. If it was somebody I cared about that much and they did something like this, I'd be like, oh my God, it's amazing. Like, without a doubt. So I get it. I do get it.
Yeah.
Do you think that the Smodcast is very similar to the podcast we see in this film? I've never listened to Smodcast, but...
I wouldn't have thought so. I feel like that podcast is a satire on the average kind of... It was almost more radio, wasn't it?
Yeah,
it definitely felt that way to me. Like those trashy American like radio shows where they're just like coming up with like stupid jokes and it's just very like obnoxious.
Yeah, and I feel like later on, Howard Howe, the antagonist of this feature, he says to him, doesn't he? He says to the podcaster played by Justin Long, so you're essentially, you do podcasting because it means you can get away with saying whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that about sums it up, really, doesn't it?
Yes.
They sound like radio, but they can say things and make jokes that they would never get away with on prime time and radio.
I mean, he says in the film as well that the more the raunch, is it raunchy the word he says? Yeah, the raunchier it is, the more his fans like it.
Yeah.
So
We like to keep it real and raunchy and real raunchy.
Yeah,
That's the exact line. Yeah.
Exactly it. Yeah.
What's the name of the podcast, Manny?
The Not See Party. But,
Nice and careful.
And why doesn't that joke work in our accents, Manny?
because if you say it in the American accent, as I will demonstrate, the Nazi Party, it sounds like the Nazi Party, which is a joke.
I don't think you found that joke very funny, did you?
Well, I mean, it's no, I didn't.
Do you think Kevin Smith thought that was funny? Or do you think he thought that those characters would think it was funny?
I think he thought those characters would think that it was
yeah,
funny.
I've not thought of it that way till just now.
I almost think it's him taking the piss out of them in a way.
Yeah.
The entire film is bathed in irony, isn't it? The whole film is like an ironic joke.
I think you have to see it that way if you're going to even try and enjoy this film. Because if
Yes,
you don't
of course.
understand any of the jokes, then you're not going to find this film funny at all.
Yeah, I mean, weirdly, I would normally be the first person to be like, oh, this guy, the main guy is so obnoxious, he's so annoying. I didn't actually find him that irritating until a little bit later on when some more details about his private life came out. Then I started to be a little bit more irritated by him. But at first, maybe it's the actor. I found him quite charming.
Yeah, he does add a certain element. The way he plays him is certainly quite it's some of the only real comedic performance it comes from him. At the beginning of the film, he gives it kind of enough of a likability in how he presents to the character, but
yeah,
it's a bit thin, I think.
Yeah, I mean, so he's played by Justin Long. You guys know this?
The Jeepers Creepers man.
Yeah.
The Jeepers Creepers
As
man.
most horror fans will probably recognise him, he is in Jeepers Creepers as the main boy, Gary Jenner. He's also in Drag Me to Hell in 2009.
Oh, I love that film.
Which really falls very much into a similar genre to this, right? It's horror, comedy, horror. Depends where you sit as to which order you'd put those in, I guess.
And a lot of the comedy comes from absurdity and kind of it being gross.
Yeah.
Sam Raimi did that one, didn't he?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
did.
The man who did Evil Dead.
The original Evil Dead trilogy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to rewatch that film, actually.
You always should rewatch the Evil Dead trilogy.
Whenever you get the chance.
They're amazing.
But yeah, apart from those films, he was mainly in sort of rom-coms when he was younger. I definitely feel like the mustache was a conscious choice here to make him look a little bit less cute, as well as a little bit more like a walrus.
Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't even twig to that until you just said that. Yeah, of course it is.
I think it just stuck in my head because I love all animals. I really do. I love a walrus. But those whiskers that come out of their face really make me uncomfortable. What, are they hair? Are they skin?
I'm not sure.
I've always meant to kind of look that up, but I never have. Mostly because they just make me feel a bit ill.
They look a bit brittle, don't they? Like they snap. They obviously wouldn't,
See,
but...
I'm like, I get the opposite. I feel like they would be bendy. Ooh. I'm trying to think about it too much.
I like to think of them as being like big strings of spaghetti.
Oh,
Uncooked spaghetti.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah.
Wait, that is brittle. So you're with me on this one. A walrus's
you think they're
whiskers
hard?
are brittle, yeah.
I reckon so.
That's what 2 out of 3 of this podcast think.
Oh, either way, I'm not comfortable.
I don't think we should forget that Justin Long's best film that he was in was alongside Bruce Willis in the world famous, highly critically acclaimed Die Hard 4.0. Now, I don't know why it's called .0, but yeah.
Because it's to do with technology and everything like collapsing, so they made it 4.0.
Is that really why?
Yeah,
Oh,
I think
no.
so. I think so. I mean, it's just the film where a police car drives into a helicopter in midair. That's the only bit anyone remembers of that film, and there's a reason they used it in the trailer. But you know, at least it's not Die Hard 5. Let's not get into that. That movie made me want to like just hibernate for the rest of my life.
But did this film make you want to hibernate for the rest of your life? That is the question.
Do walruses hibernate? That is the even bigger question.
Do walruses hibernate?
Like the Arctic. Why would they hibernate? When would they hibernate?
I don't know, in a sea cave?
You're meant to be the animal expert here, Ruby. You tell me.
I think two out of 3 of this podcast think that walruses hibernate. So I think that's what happens.
Yeah, we
Well-
may be showed as being incredibly ignorant, but we'll see.
Shall we get into the first competition round
Let's do
of
it.
this? And
Yeah.
this
Let's
week
do it.
it's
Let's
very
kick things off.
exciting for you guys because there is something on the line here.
Oh,
So we haven't decided what we're going to be doing for next week.
No.
And the winner of this podcast is going to get to decide. But there is a requirement that comes with this movie. It's going to be a remake.
Oh.
Yeah, so you guys are going to have to pick your remake. You don't have to say it now. You've got the whole podcast to think about it. I've got one in mind, but of course it's not going to be me. Unless I decide that we're just going to do are you going to watch Tusk or going to watch Tusk situation.
No. I think, just for future reference, I think you should only ever be allowed to do that again if there's a draw.
yeah,
Okay.
I agree.
So when will I ever get
Democratic
to pick
vote.
the film, though?
Yeah.
I mean, I picked such a
When
great
there's a
one for this
draw-
week.
When there's a draw, it means you win.
Okay.
Because my prize last week for winning the competition for the first time, I might add, was to choose between Tusk or Tusk. And yeah, not best pleased with that. I gotta say.
I don't think anyone here is massively, are they?
No, I thought it was going to be better than it was. Okay, so I'm going to give you the IMDb rating, which was a 5.3, which I think fits pretty well.
Yeah, I'd say so. Because I can see people loving this movie, and I can see people thinking this is the worst thing they've ever seen.
Yeah.
So you know,
Somewhere in between, yeah.
Well, that's part of the reason why we watched this is because I was listening to a podcast that did a little chat about this back when it came out, and they hated it,
Right.
but they didn't get it. Like I remember listening to them. I can't remember what the podcast was, but I remember them listening to them talk about it, and the bits which we kind of found funny, they just thought were ridiculous and stupid.
Right.
So, but then when I talked to you about it, Manny, you were like, well, no, it is funny, but it's stupid. So I kind of thought, well, we've got people saying that it's just terrible, doesn't make sense. And Manny, who I trust when he talks about films,
Damn right.
as we have for about 15 years now, it feels like,
Yeah.
saying it's funny and stupid, I thought, well, I've got to see this film. And that's why we did it. So yeah, I mean, I'm going to have to give this film a 6 because this last episode I don't give lower than a 6, but we're not doing our rating. Sorry, man.
Oh, God.
So yeah, what do you guys think it got on Metacritic? Ruby, you go first. You won last week. Remember, this is for your chance to make everyone watch a horror remake of your choice.
Yeah, I'm questioning whether I even want that responsibility, to be completely honest. I struggle with remakes in general. In general, on principle.
We've spent at least a fair amount of the time of recording for this podcast already slagging off remakes.
Yeah.
This is going to be interesting, but you could pick.
I could
something.
steer it in a better direction.
Yeah, I
think.
will veto the Nightmare on Elm Street remake.
I think we all would. Don't
Yes,
worry.
we would.
Because I will not be. If you can do a podcast episode without me, because I will not be watching that film.
I shall not be privy.
Yeah, I will not do it. Okay, so the Metacritic.
Okay, Metacritic.
score.
That's got to be low, right? It's got to be. But then Kevin Smith does appeal to people. I'm going to say 38%.
Yeah. I'm gonna struggle. I reckon this film got panned. I reckon it definitely got panned. The film he did before this was Cop Out, which the thing is, like, I think this film would offend more people's taste, but Cop Out is boring. But this film is not particularly boring.
It's not boring.
You will remember it, whereas
Yeah.
Cop Out was entirely forgettable. So he wasn't in a good way with the critics. So I'm going to go lower than you. I'm going to say 20.
Okay.
Okay.
One of you is closer to picking their remake, and that person is Ruby.
Oh!
Yeah, it was
yay.
actually a 55% on Metacritic.
55?
Yeah, which is very similar to IMDb's
Basically
5.4.
IMDb's,
Yeah.
Man.
I know, I thought it would get less than this, but like you
I
say...
was going to go lower than I did. That was the higher end of my estimate.
Yeah. Damn, I can't believe that that must mean this movie got some good reviews.
It would have done, yeah.
I'm going to call that the Kevin Smith effect.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I
It
think
has
if
to
anyone
be.
else had made this, I don't think it would be getting anywhere near those levels.
No.
I mean, I reckon it was also beefed up a bit because, yeah, he did it from discussing it with a podcast. It's very much for his fans. It was decided
Yeah.
on being made by his fans, and I think you've got to give him a bit of credit for that because he's made a film based on a man being turned into a walrus, and the film is a full-length film. It's not a short.
It's not
and
short.
my attention was on the film the whole way through, so you got to give him some credit for that. I mean, I don't know if it's 55% on Metacritic.
Good.
But because that means that it's higher than average, I guess. But Rotten Tomatoes. Manny, you go first this time.
Okay, well, given that bit of information about Metacritic, I've been forced to change my perspective, and I'm going to go for bang on 50.
Cool.
Yeah,
Cool.
bang on 50%. What do you reckon, Rue?
Just to go in opposite direction, I'm going to go higher. I'm going to say no, it can't be 60.
60%.
I was about to say 60. I was like, no way can it be 60. Okay, I'll go the opposite way. 30.
Okay, so you said
50.
and you said 30. We've got a tie.
What?
So far, yep, it was 43%. Yeah. So Manny was 7% out.
But you said 50, right?
Yeah, and you
So
said
Manny's
30.
closer.
Yeah, Manny was.
So Manny gets the point.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought you said a tie as in... Oh, a tie overall.
Oh yeah, no, sorry.
I'm sorry. No, my bad.
I am not
Thank you
the
for being
best.
misleading.
I am not the best question master. Okay. But I am the decider.
You are indeed.
You are.
You're the judge, jury, and executioner.
Exactly.
Ooh, tie so far.
Yeah. So that is the
Exciting.
competition round. We'll have 3 more points up for grabs, so someone
Alright
will be
then.
winning today.
Okay. So we mentioned Justin Long. The other main character in this / antagonist of the film is played by Michael Parks. He plays Howard Howe.
He was awesome.
He was great, right?
Best part of the film, without question, for me.
Yeah.
Without question.
Yeah, he was really watchable, really entertaining. Apparently Kevin Smith tailor-made this role for Parks. Unfortunately, Michael Parks died last year in May, which is really
That's
sad.
sad to hear.
I didn't know that. That's...
And subsequently, Kevin Smith is actually going to be making a documentary about his life, which will be really interesting to check out.
That
I
will be
reckon.
interesting.
Yeah, he's been in over 100 films and shows in the last 50 years, so that's going to be a pretty
That's so crazy.
interesting documentary.
Over 100 films.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's a busy man right there.
That's a very busy man.
Yeah.
So where do you guys think you know him from, if at all?
I sounds really bad, but I don't remember him being a big part of any film. I remember him being in bits of films.
Yeah, he's one of those faces.
Yeah, I can't picture. For some reason, I had No Country for Old Men, but he's not in that.
He looks like he could be.
Yeah, but
uh,
I think he's no. You're gonna have to tell me.
Something very similar? No, I haven't seen No Country for Old Men, so I take that back. He actually plays a character called Earl McGraw, but in several different films. So in From Dusk Till Dawn, the Kill Bill series, and 2 episodes of the Grindhouse series thing, Death Proof and Planet Terror.
Oh, okay.
Which I found really intriguing. It's definitely something I want to look into more. I guess it plays into this whole Quentin Tarantino universe theory.
Yeah, I just ran that through my head, and at first I thought he played the father of the in From Dusk Till Dawn of the family, but no, he's a cop. He's the cop, isn't he?
Yeah,
Yes.
Yeah, and he plays the cop who discovers the bride in the in the first volume of Kill Bill.
Yeah, and she spits at him, doesn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's always he's credited as the Texas Ranger, Earl McGraw from Dusk Till Dawn. He's the cop who gets killed at the beginning at the gas station place. And it's actually his son, who is also a cop, who comes into it later on.
Oh, okay.
And they mention that, his daddy was killed. So,
Yeah.
And then he's alongside his son in Kill Bill as well. When they go into the chapel, it's the two of them. So it's this weird continuity thing between the films. I don't know how much it actually adds up, but just really, really interesting.
Yeah, no, sure. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Aside from him, I guess the most debatable, one of the most famous faces in this.
Does he see dead people?
Yeah, literally, I've written Forrest Gump's son and Sixth Sense kid and AI kid in my notes.
I don't think he sees dead people. I think he sees lots of cake. He's gotten a bit big. Hasn't he? Let's not beat around the bush.
Well, he's not a small child anymore.
No, he isn't.
That's for sure.
He's not. But I mean, his face has not really changed.
No,
He's instantly recognisable, right?
Neither is Justin Long's though. He looks like exactly
Justin
the same,
Long looks exactly the same,
except for the moustache.
I really like them two as podcasters. And especially, I kind of think you can picture them actually as themselves. So Justin Long and Sixth Sense kid, I can't remember his name.
Haley Joel Osment.
Yeah, I can actually picture them two having a podcast. Yeah. Because they're that point in their career, which I don't think they're really doing many films anymore. And a lot of people are doing. I mean, there's a Peter Crouch podcast, right?
Wow.
Yeah. So everyone's doing podcasts now. We're doing podcasts.
Yeah.
So I can imagine them having a podcast. So it's seeing them doing the podcast. Yeah, I think they fit quite well, to be honest.
They certainly are cast well. Although you said you like them as podcasters, I don't think anyone would like them as podcasters as they're played in the film. But
no,
they're good in the role though. Yeah, they're kind of well cast.
So you wouldn't listen to the Not See Party?
Not of my own volition. No.
Okay, cool.
Not quite. I don't think I'm in the demographic.
No.
So I'm denied over saying one of the most famous faces in the film, because there is definitely someone even more famous than that. It took you a good 30 seconds, Rob, which is actually like a record for you, in a long time, because you're usually so on it.
I have a weird facial recognition thing. If I've seen a face before, I will recognise what it is.
Pretty much.
Yeah, won't necessarily know where from, but I will know. I know if I've seen a face or not.
Yeah.
Like, without a doubt. And I just had to stare into his eyes for 30 seconds before. I pictured him in Captain Jack's costume and
So Johnny Depp plays this really bizarre character, even for this film.
See, this is the weirdest part of the film, and bear in mind, this is after we see a man being turned into a fucking walrus.
Yeah. His name is
Guy Lapointe. Guy Lapointe. I think that is how it's pronounced.
It's
Did you say
Guy Lapointe.
Guy Lapointe, yeah.
Just like Jesus Christ.
So we got Jesus Grease and Guy Lapointe.
He basically plays a walking French-Canadian stereotype.
Yeah.
And I'm not completely au fait French like word. I'm not completely au fait with like French-Canadian stereotypes, and most are just the straight-up Canadian stereotypes I know because of South Park. So I think a lot of that humour went over my head a little bit. Like a lot of the stuff to do with it being like specifically Canadian, but it's one of the weirdest parts I've seen him play, and we're talking about Johnny Depp, a man who has made his name being a bizarre character actor.
I loved them taking or joking about Canada when he goes to Canada.
Oh, well, there's the guy from Epic Mealtime.
Yeah, and there's the Canadoos and Canadotes, and Canadians are red, white, and never blue. And the fact that he said sorry all the time, and they're hung like mooses. And something that's not related to Canada, but he just said, never say Hitler in an airport. I really loved that scene. That's when I started thinking that I was going to really enjoy this film, was that scene. I mean, I've been to Canada and they are lovely. I mean, it's not that noticeable. We don't go walking around and everyone high fives you and everything, but they are really nice out there.
Enough.
Yeah. So I get the stereotype. I enjoyed that scene quite a lot.
Yeah.
So Johnny Depp is not the only Depp in the film. I don't know if either of you guys would have recognised her necessarily.
I think I know where you're about to go with this.
Yeah. So his daughter Lily Rose Depp is also in the film. She's credited as clerk number 2. She's one of the 2 girls in the shop. The other girl, do you know who she is?
Yeah, I do. Should I say this?
Go for it.
She's Kevin Smith's daughter.
Harley Quinn Smith.
Yeah.
That's really cool.
He named her Harley Quinn.
He did.
Oh, for God's sake, Kevin.
He went there.
Jesus. The guy is an unapologetic nerd, but I mean, God.
That may explain why their acting was shit.
It was pretty bad.
Like, I know that they were trying to joke and everything, but damn, it was painful.
Yeah. They sucked.
Like, even for a bit of a laugh, no.
It stood out, right? It
Really
did
stood
for
out.
me too.
I mean, cooler Kevin and Johnny to do that, but also don't do that.
So does this mean you won't be rushing off to see the kind of spin-off sequel to Tusk, Yoga Hoses?
Which they star in,
Which
right?
stars,
as those characters.
Yeah, Lily Rose and Harley Quinn as those characters.
Yoga hoses.
Yoga Hoses.
It's part of a thing he's doing called the True North Trilogy.
Oh,
which
yeah.
is a trilogy of films which are like based around Canada. And again, this is a recurring theme for the episode. I don't think I'm in the demographic. Don't think it's for me. Fair enough.
So are you saying that you didn't get any of the jokes in the How I Met Your Mother when they take the piss out of Robin for being Canadian?
I've never even seen How I Met Your Mother.
Ah, see, watch like all of the episodes of that, and then you might start getting some of the jokes about Canada.
Okay,
Even though you really, really won't want to. There's actually a 3rd instalment coming in this True North trilogy, called Moose Jaws.
Moose
Great.
Jaws.
Described as Jaws, but with a moose.
Oh.
Okay. No, I mean, I might be game for that because I like stupid creature features.
I feel like Sharknado has ruined all of this for me.
Yes, they have.
I mean,
You are correct.
it's just fucking ridiculous. At this point, Sharknado 5, and it's, they have this thing where they talk about, in all of the Sharknados, the tagline means something about the film, and I was thinking, oh, that's really cool. In the first one, by number 5, it's called It's About Time, because it's the last one, and obviously it's also about time travel. Meta. No, I can't deal with it anymore.
The problem I have with those kinds of movies are the fact that the genuinely good so bad it's good movies were made sincerely.
Yeah.
Whereas these films are made because they go, oh look, there's an audience who like terrible movies. Let's make a deliberately terrible... And the cynicism just kind of...
Exactly, it ruined the joke.
It stops becoming a joke and more just a sneer.
Yeah, and now people are piling in Deep Blue Sea with Sharknado, and Deep Blue Sea is amazing.
If only for
always
that
will
one
be.
scene.
Deep Blue Sea is not a joke.
not a
LL
joke.
Cool J does his best work in that film.
I always forget LL Cool J's in that film.
So good.
He had like an acting career in like the late 90s and early 2000s, didn't he?
Do you know the best thing about that film?
What?
He survives.
Yeah, but Samuel L. Jackson gets killed off mid-speech. That's the best scene in not just that film, but maybe any film. I mean, it really is like the best thing that's ever happened in the history of cinema. Just like doing a motivational speech and he just gets munched. It's fantastic.
It's memorable.
It really is.
Let's actually talk about this film then.
Okay.
I know we're all a little bit hesitant to, because we're still kind of processing what just happened, but I mean, it's not hard to describe it. Rob, will you give us a little bit of a back of the box preview just to summarise
sure
for anybody
can.
who...
Luckily, this one's very short, and I don't feel like I'm going to mess it up. A US podcaster ventures into the Canadian wilderness to interview an old man who has an extraordinary past, and the American learns the man has a dark secret involving a snake. No, it's a fucking walrus.
To be fair, you saying snake reminded me of Snakes on a Plane, which was another film. Which...
No, Manny,
me
no.
too. That's where my mind went.
No. But that film was also made because of like some kind of an internet thing.
Was it really?
Yeah, where people like went, oh, let's make this script which is about snakes on a plane, and I think it was like kind of like written by a group of random people on the internet. So
I didn't hate that film, to be fair.
It's got Samuel
What I
Jackson in it
remember.
again.
Yeah, all the best ones do.
He's tired of these motherfucking steaks on these motherfucking plane.
yeah, the film was good while it was on.
Yes.
It was one of those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, that is the back of the box preview, and it didn't need to be any bigger than that.
No,
it
that's
doesn't.
essentially what happens.
Yeah.
The plot is a bit thin, which
Yeah.
isn't necessarily to its detriment, although it kind of is.
Yeah, I mean, we have a few bits. We have the podcast scene. They joke and kind of lay the foundation of what's going on with the podcast. We have a little bit, which I think Kevin Smith tried to make... Wallace is his name. Wallace the Walrus he's going to turn to be. Wallace is Justin Long's character. Him and his girlfriend, which I can't remember her name.
Real or...
Either, unfortunately.
She plays Ali.
Yeah.
Ali, played by Genesis Rodriguez.
Yeah, they have a little scene which is really awkward because they're engaging in sexual activity.
Yes.
And I can't ever stand it when someone has to make noises like they're engaging in sexual activity.
Yeah, it was a bit awkward.
It was a bit awkward. And obviously they
Felt
try...
like I was watching it with my parents.
Yeah, and I was watching it with you guys and I've seen way worse. But
yeah, we have.
Yeah. But
I don't really understand that.
it just felt... Maybe it's because it felt... I mean, it really felt like it was just a scene to make us think, oh, they've got a relationship and it would be really sad when he gets turned into a walrus.
It felt forced.
Yeah.
I felt like all the scenes pretty much with her character involving his relationship were rubbish.
Well, there's the really weird bit where she's looking directly at the camera and she's kind of looking like she's giving a monologue, and I thought that was going to be her being like, oh, we think that she's talking about Wallace, but she's actually practicing for an audition or something.
Yeah.
And that was going to be the joke, but actually she's talking to his fellow podcaster, which I also can't remember his name. This is
Penny.
not... Yeah. It's weird. I can remember all the names from Pan's Labyrinth and everything like that.
Not that surprising.
But yeah, this one I struggled. But yeah, so I felt like her character was a bit kind of shoehorned in there.
Massively.
But I suppose we needed to have something based around the, to have
Someone who cares enough to go find him.
Yeah, because otherwise...
That's literally the only reason she exists in the film, I think.
Yeah, and then after that point, we head to Canada.
Yep.
Yeah.
To go find the Kill Bill kid, who in the podcast he chops his own leg off with a samurai sword. Ha ha! Big joke on Star Wars kid.
Yeah.
Yeah. But obviously way more brutal.
Way more brutal.
Yeah. And when we get to Canada, we find Howard Howe.
Yes, he's the backup material for the podcast because Samurai Kid, or Kill Bill Kid, has fallen through after killing himself with said samurai sword. And of course, the final layer to that joke is eventually Justin Long, or as I should call him,
Wallace.
Wallace, thank you very much.
Wallace the Walrus. Think of it like that.
It should be easy to remember. Final joke being that he also loses a leg. Yeah, all very full circle there. It doesn't take a genius.
I really liked it when that's one part where I really enjoyed the film, is where Justin Long is talking to Michael Parks. I really enjoyed the scene where they're getting to know each other and having a chat. This is really where I thought that Wallace you get that really arrogant side of him as he's kind of snooping around his house, and he's at the point where he plays his piano and stuff. And I was thinking, what are you doing? You don't know this guy. He's going to let you stay in his house, and you're acting like, I suppose it's the podcaster side of him, the kind of... You forget that a lot, people that do podcasts, when they get big, they're pretty much celebrities, and he's acting like, he's a celebrity in this. And I do like how you can tell that Howard Howe he's obviously going to do something.
He's planning something. He's sort of got that look in his eye, hasn't he? He's sort of looking at him the whole time. Those scenes where he's initially with him, just in his house, are the best. I think it's the best part of the film for me. The scenes where he's initially telling his stories, and you're kind of getting a feel for this guy's character. And then obviously, he drugs his tea, and he ends up passing out, and he wakes up, and he initially lies to him and says, "Oh yeah, a spider crawled across your leg," and
weirdest lie ever.
Yeah, and and the doctor made me take all of the phones out of the house, and he's not around now because he's on his rounds, and
it just spirals.
Yeah, and he realizes that he's lying, and then the kind of the mask cracks, and he becomes a complete psychopath in front of him and just goes mad. The thing which I really enjoyed about that scene in particular is the fact that it is actually kind of disturbing. You look at the character and you hear what he has planned for him, and that he's going to make him a walrus suit. And it comes off as quite disturbing, but at the same time it doesn't play down how utterly ridiculous the whole premise of turning a man into a walrus is. So it's kind of both at the same time.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the biggest credits I give to this film, is it does manage to pretty much stay on that line the entire time.
Yeah, sometimes awkwardly, I think, and then sometimes it
takes
works.
effort to stay there.
Yeah, I think it takes more skill than was shown in the direction of this film personally. But you know, it definitely had some interesting moments in terms of that combination of horror and comedy. It just, for me, sometimes it fell on its face either through the comedy, sometimes I just thought it was unfunny, and sometimes I thought it was awkward and not disturbing or scary at all.
But you were laughing a lot.
I was laughing at the film.
I was gonna say, was it at all weird?
There, especially towards the end, there were some scenes where I was just fully laughing at the fact that this is a movie. I didn't find the jokes the film was presenting was funny. I just couldn't believe that this is a thing. And you know, for that in of itself, I guess it is worth watching as a comedy. But occasionally, it's just dumb. It's just dumb.
I couldn't believe how much tea he managed to fit into that cup.
Yeah, no.
Oh yeah,
Kept drinking.
It's ridiculous.
A tiny little teacup, and he takes at least like 7 gulps out of it.
And it was so obvious, and I think it was definitely meant to be obvious that there was something up with this tea.
Yeah.
I think if you've ever seen any film ever, never mind a horror film, it's like, yep, that tea is drugged.
Yeah.
Never drink the tea.
Yeah, and he goes on a actual rant about how good the tea is. It's like, okay, now it's definitely drugged.
During their conversation, we learn that Howard Howe he said a walrus saved his life as he was marooned on an island with a walrus that he named Mr. Tusk.
And we found out later that he ate the fucking thing. What's that about? I was with it till then.
Yeah, no. He ended up becoming so hungry that he ate it, and then he was literally rescued an hour later.
Which takes us to the final showdown at the end, which is crazy. But
Final showdown.
The final showdown.
That's the best visual gag in the whole film. Was just watching these two men in walrus garb just flap against each other.
a couple of quotes from this. So there's the one he says that Ernest Hemingway says, which is, only to someone what you do drunk will teach you to keep your mouth shut, which was quite an interesting quote. Apparently that's what Ernest Hemingway told Howard Howe.
Am I being an idiot? Because that just doesn't seem grammatically correct.
No, I mean, I could have got it completely wrong.
It's not in the way you wrote it either.
No, that's how it's said.
Yeah, I mean, it must be I couldn't quite process it. I guess my brain already had enough to deal with watching this movie to get the feel there. But yeah, it didn't quite make sense to me.
And we also get to hear walrus cock.
And
we get to see the bone that is inside of a walrus's member.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, and another thing is cute is for Chinese babies.
Oh yeah,
which we all laughed at.
Yeah.
yeah. Chinese babies are cute.
Bless them.
And when he calls him Mr. Tusk, this is where we realise he's drugged and he flops over. Now I want to get to the bit where the main bit of the film. I feel like we've led up to it enough, and I to be honest, I don't really care about this film enough to really go into too much detail about where we get there. I want to talk about a man being turned into a walrus.
Yeah.
That's why we're all here.
Yeah, so let's jump forward to the bit where we see him.
Yep.
What the fuck?
I actually was a little bit taken aback by this, I'm not going to lie. I don't really know why I was.
It's more, I think it looks more gross than you might expect it to, but it also looks dumb. To me it looks both goofy and kind of gruesome at the same time without being either.
In a way, I kind of at one point was thinking, you know what, fair play. You said you were going to turn someone into a walrus, and you've not done a bad job.
No.
If you look at him, he size-wise looks like a walrus. You can see he's used his fingers quite well to make him look like walrus hands. What are they? Flippers?
Just for the listeners at home, Rob just made like put his hands up by his chest and made them like flappy little flippers.
What are they? Walrus flippers?
I mean, I'm not sure of the technical term, mate, but he looks like a walrus with walrus flippy things. Yes.
He does. I didn't like the thing that's gross is obviously the skin stitches all over him. I don't know why they always do this in horror films, is that you wouldn't cut the skin like that. You wouldn't have attached them in such weird higgledy-piggledy jigsaw-like ways. You would have had lines. Like, that's why I liked Human Centipede, because I liked that film. That's a strong thing to say about that film. But you see a lot of the stuff covered up so that they don't make this kind of weird... Because obviously no one in the real world has made a walrus, no matter how much...
Really, mate?
No matter how much this film tries to pretend that we've done. So. But I'd like to think that if they did, they wouldn't go like, yeah, we'll have a bit of skin from here and we'll chuck that there and we won't really care how that goes. Like, he's making a walrus, think about it. But then saying that at the same time, we'll take those away, I think he's made a pretty good walrus there.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely something I noticed when you do get a full shot of that creation, is that there's lots of different skin tones in there as well. And I was like, oh, he's killed other people, because that is definitely more than one person. Because at first, we kind of just jumped and assumed that the suit was made out of his own skin, which, of course, makes even less sense somehow. So he's killed other people for these body parts. And then we find out later from Johnny Depp's character that actually he is a serial killer and has killed upwards of...
This will be number 24, this one.
24, that's it.
And he's ended up making the tusks out of like the leg bones. After he amputates them by the knee, he then used their leg bones to make them into tusks.
Do you think that's the thing that we see him rubbing in the bit where you first... that is Wallace's own leg.
He's filing down his leg bone.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, for sure.
Which, of course, you don't realise at first.
That's a reason to watch the film twice. Actually, we've just worked it out, so no, it's not.
Not really.
Don't watch this film twice.
No one needs... Well, I have now. Jesus. the sacrifices I make for this podcast, I tell you.
Yeah, you may be in a minority there.
Yeah, you think?
I found it was gross in the way that, like, a surgical scene is gross. Not like... typical horror gore, not like torture scenes or anything like that. It was more looking at like an icky wound that was just had a little bit of pus coming out of it.
It looks very painful.
Yeah,
very
he
painful.
Looks like he's in agony the entire time.
Yeah.
We're never really.
Sounds like it too.
Yeah, I mean, he's certainly in psychological pain. You can guess that much, but we never really know if he is in physical pain or not. You assume he would be. I mean, that suit, right? He's inside it.
Yeah,
that's what I was thinking, because obviously he's got no like knees anymore. So I kind of thought that he'd be inside the suit, like kneeling down and like have this body around him, because that can't be his body.
It's a piece like. It's suggested that he's inside it, but what bothers me about it is that the suit is it's like full. It's fat, like a walrus. So what's keeping it full and not sagging around his smaller body inside it,
I think it's those little styrofoam pellets you get.
To be fair, there is that one scene where he does, like, his head kind of goes inside of the thing.
Yeah.
Like kind of like...
Like a penis.
Let's not beat around the bush, no pun intended. Like a penis. It kind of goes inside like a foreskin and then just kind of pops out, which was a really nice little visual gag if you count
that's during their weird, like, swimming together scene.
Oh yeah, swim like a fishy.
I found that was so mean. You've just done all this to this guy, then you make him swim, and he does it, but
I don't know how he doesn't drown quite. It's not made clear.
No.
But that is actually, aside from the initial reveal of him in all his walrus glory, that was a bit that actually got to me when he goes under the water for the first time and sees lots of drowned walrus people.
Yeah.
That actually made me go, oh shit! Like, he's not the first.
Yeah.
Like, it really did. It's not something I saw coming. It's obviously not a complex plot twist or anything, but it's not something I predicted.
He's not just made one walrus, he's made 23 other walruses.
Yeah.
Or at least attempted to.
And at least, I think there was at least 2 or 3 of them in that pool. So
Yeah.
he got that far with a couple of them. And that is pretty disturbing, the more you think about it.
What did you think about his cage? Do you think that's a cage you could be a walrus in for the rest of your life?
Oh, his enclosure.
Yeah, you know,
pretty
he's
dank.
got 4 screens. Chuck a bit of Netflix up on there, it wouldn't be that bad. But all he's got is like sea views and.
Eat some nice raw mackerel.
Beautiful. I did like that. We don't get much explanation in this film, and it doesn't go into too much detail. But they do tell us exactly what fish he's feeding him. It's not like he's like eat the fish. He's eat the mackerel. Which I thought, okay, you add that touch, but you don't explain to. I mean, yeah.
Yeah, the attention to detail seems to be like weirdly placed. At certain points, it gives you a lot of the detail. At other points, it just kind of goes, no, we'll just leave that.
Yeah.
I feel like
that
Kevin
as you
Smith
know.
did a bit of research and was like, I now know that walruses eat mackerel, and I have to put this in the film.
Yeah, I think that was probably the extent of his research. The one thing I didn't like about his performance as the walrus was just the fact that, like the subtle and complex performance of the walrus was just the fact that quite literally that the entire time he's got the tusks in between his mouth so he can barely close. He just spends the whole thing going. And it just like literally it just made like it was irritating.
Did you notice though that it did get more and more like an actual walrus
Yes.
as time went on? I
Yeah.
thought that
Yeah.
was kind of clever.
By his 1 year anniversary of being a walrus, he's pretty damn good at it.
How do you know it's... Oh, it is. Yeah, it says 1 year later.
Yeah,
Isn't it? Yeah, I just remembered that.
Yeah, spoilers. he stays a fucking walrus.
I think that's one of... Yeah, I mean, it's that. It's also one of the things that makes me laugh the most about this is that we're sort of told that he's in captivity from the day he gets abducted to the day that he is rescued in Bergamas. It's been like, what, 4 or 5 days maybe?
That's all it feels like.
She
yeah.
says, before they
Yeah.
go to Canada, she says, Ali says that he hasn't rang me in 3 days.
Yeah.
When she gets the message from him saying,
yeah.
please come and help me. They then go to Canada. I'm guessing that takes about a day. We are showing them searching around Canada, maybe another day. Like, it's been less than a week.
Yeah, and he's full walrus.
And
He's
he
recovered
is
to the point of he can
full
move around.
Walrus by this stage. It's not like I would almost, if it'd been 6 months, I'd be like, yeah, he's been like, institutionalized, like, actually as this creature. But it's like it's been a few days, and he's lost the power of speech.
Yeah, but that's because he's got 2 great big tusks right in his mouth, so he can't.
And he's had his
Oh,
tongue
is that
taken
what-
out.
is that-
Yeah,
his
he
tongue's
can't
removed.
close his mouth, so he can't. He
Oh,
use
is
his
that
lips.
what it
Yeah,
is?
so that's the reason why as soon as he's a walrus, the only thing he can do is go. And that's probably my least favourite part of this
Yeah.
film is
And
the fact that Justin Long's performance goes from being pretty decent little comedic performance to
Yeah, poor
and then,
guy.
and then at the end just crying, but instead of crying because he can't move his lips, it's just that was pretty funny though. I'll give it that. I was dying.
Okay, no, I'm going to let it off the hook for that.
Yeah.
I think you've got to let a lot off the hook with
You
this
really,
movie.
really
See,
do.
what I think that Kevin Smith has cleverly done here is he's kind of blurred the lines between Frodo being chosen by the ring and let me finish. And
I'm afraid with it.
and Walter the Walrus? No, Wallace the Walrus was clearly chosen by divine providence? Prominence?
What are you talking
Providence?
about?
Neither of us are going to bite.
I
Just
feel
stop it.
that what Kevin Smith has done, you two are looking at each other like I'm not making any sense, but obviously, okay, look, he picture this, okay, he's just had some crazy surgery to become a walrus. It's been 4 days, okay, he's a walrus that's able to swim. He's looked down, he sees other walruses that clearly didn't make it. Howard House says you've never made it this far. Wallace was clearly born to be a walrus. This is the whole thing that Kevin Smith is trying to tell us, is that much like Frodo was chosen to take the ring to Mordor,
Frodo wasn't chosen, he volunteered.
Frodo was chosen to take the ring to Mordor. Wallace was chosen in the stars
Oh my god.
to become a walrus, and I think that what Kevin Smith has done there is seminal. Yeah, Amanda, you're looking at me like I don't know horror films.
Or anything at all.
Or anything at all.
Well, mate, at least we've got a unique perspective on this podcast. But I don't think either of us are going to bite on that one. But I think both of you are overthinking a film which is just meant to be. It's meant to wash over you. What
am I overthinking?
I don't understand that. Wait, do you think I'm being... Okay, sorry, podcasters, but we're going to get into it here. Do you think I was being serious? Are you going to go home tonight and think, what?
Dude.
Rob thinks that Kevin Smith drew something from Lord of the Rings. Please don't think that about me.
Mate, I might be gullible sometimes, but for God's sake, what do you take me for?
I mean, I was about to say that you were the one person that believed at the start of this film that it was based on true events.
Oh, mate, I'd love to. I'd love to believe that somewhere in the world a crazed old man turned a podcaster into a walrus. That would be the best. That would be the single greatest novelty news story that Metro has ever published. You know what I mean? Just man, imagine the clickbait money. Man turned into walrus for old man's sick pleasure. I don't know. Good grief.
So I want to talk about the introduction of Johnny Depp's character. And I also, something I wrote down is I want to hear you, Manny, do his voice.
No, you don't.
I really do. You're so good at voices, and I think you could do this one.
No, oh, for God's sake, mate. Just because I do a pretty decent Scottish and South African does not mean I'm going to be able to imitate Johnny Depp's imitation of French Canadian. Canadian is a thing in of itself. French Canadian is an entirely different dialect.
That takes a Johnny Depp.
And I may have once been told I look like a fat Johnny Depp, which I will take to my grave, but I do not have his acting chops, mate. So
I'm not sure even he pulls this off, to be fair.
No, I think he plays incredibly fast and loose with it. But I will say his name as it is pronounced. It looks written as though it says Guy Lapointe, but it is Guy Lapointe.
Point.
Guy Lapointe. I think it's Guy Lapointe.
It's not point because there's an TE at the end.
Oh right, yeah. That
Close
is
enough though.
No, it will do. That's as far as I'm going though, mate. I'm saving my dignity.
Fair dues.
What little I have left.
I really liked this character at first. He was really making me laugh. Obviously, it being Johnny Depp kind of helps. I'm not going to lie. Just adds that little bit of flavour to it. But especially when he goes into the flashback where he's like, oh, I think I've met this bastard before.
Yes.
And it shows him meeting Howard Howe in the past. That scene is funny for about a minute. And then it goes on. It must be for another 5 minutes.
I think it was about 5 minutes long, and it literally stops being funny after a minute.
Painful.
And it dragged.
It's kind of one of those situations where it starts off funny, goes on too long, and then gets funny again, but you end up laughing, as you said, at it rather than with it. It's just like, what the hell is going on here? And then it goes back to the restaurant that they're sat in with Johnny Depp, and he carries on talking for another few minutes, and it's just, it stopped being funny such a long time ago.
That character was, he's hilarious when he first comes on screen, and then literally after about 3 minutes, you just kind of go, okay, I've had enough of this joke.
Yeah.
The joke is that you are French, you could not be any more French Canadian. I get it. Bam.
I feel that if you didn't know this was, or didn't work out it was Johnny Depp, then it's going to be even more painful.
Yes, definitely.
Because at least I was like, oh, Johnny Depp is having some fun.
Yes.
He's working.
He was working.
Yeah, I think that's something you can't really say these days. They've cancelled the next instalment of Pirates of the Caribbean.
Have they cancelled it?
I think they have, yeah.
No, I don't think it's that they've cancelled it. I think he's left.
Oh.
They're going to do it without him.
Pirates of the Caribbean without Johnny Depp? Yeah, good luck with that.
I mean, the last 3 were fucking awful.
I haven't seen them, so...
Ugh.
Well, you got 20 seconds until the next competition round.
All right, I think it is time.
I was going to say that if you want to make a couple of walrus noises until then, but you've got 10 seconds now. Nice. I'm going to just edit that, and it's going to just carry on going for 6 seconds. Let's just do it a bit early this time. Okay, so instead of the 53 minute, you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
like we've all been looking at you like you're crazy because you are mental. You're mental for picking this film.
I feel that it was a great film for us to do.
It's at least a 6, right?
Yeah, at least a 6.
Can't be lower than a 6. Okay, so in this competition round, it's for 1 point. and it is for how long you think the movie was.
Who goes first?
You go first.
Yes.
It wasn't actually. This is the standard film length, I reckon. An hour and a half.
Okay, Manny.
Couldn't tell you. It's strange. It feels as though it was both too long, but it also felt as though it was kind of pacey at the same time at parts. So
This would have made a great short.
I completely agree. Actually, I
Yeah.
think there was a lot of padding, the unnecessary padding.
They made this a half an hour film at most.
I
I think it would have been a lot better.
I completely agree with you there. Actually, but yeah, I'm going to say an hour and 35.
So you're an hour and a half,
Yeah.
and you're an hour and 35. Manny wins.
Oh no.
It's 2-1. You're edging closer to that remake. It was an hour and 41 minutes, which I do think is way too long.
For this film, that's...
Like, he
that's
could have done it as an
way-
hour and 20, because I know that maybe he was thinking, do a full-length feature, because people don't go to the cinema to see half-an-hour-long films. People
You
got...
could have cut 20 minutes of that with the Johnny
Yeah.
Depp scene.
Yeah, good
Easily.
God, massively.
And you still would have almost had too much of that guy.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's very strange that it was that long.
Yeah, no, like, there were a bunch of jokes where it felt like it just lingered a bit too long on it. Not even in like an interesting and funny way. It was just like, got it, next, please. Okay.
Let's talk about the final scene. Well, the bit before the very final scene where they eventually find Mr. Tusk, as he's now become.
Yeah, so one of the weird things, I don't know why they made this choice, but you know, they, the two friends, Teddy and Ali, are on the trail of this guy, along with the Johnny Depp character, Guy.
Guy Lapointe.
Yeah,
We'll go
that
with
guy. They end up running into this house without Johnny Depp, but I'm not sure why. Did I miss something there? Maybe I missed something.
Can't even...
He gives them the guns, and then there's the big gun joke, which is just such a tired trope. It's unreal, but still made me giggle. God help me.
Yeah.
And then they go running off into this house, leaving Johnny Depp behind. Discover the walrus.
In the final showdown!
The final showdown, yeah. Well, they kind of just after that,
Yeah.
right after he's already tusked him.
Yeah.
See, actually, that scene was cool. The guy dressed up in his own
It was
walrus
funny.
suit.
That was the visual gag of the film for me, was watching like the psycho character and Justin Long just flopping on each other in the walrus. It was it was hysterical.
I mean, if you've ever seen a walrus fight, it is brutal.
Yeah, they take chunks out of each other.
Yeah, I have actually.
I can't remember the exact weight or size of a walrus, but if you actually see one in comparison to another animal, you know the rough size of, they are huge.
Yeah.
Huge creatures, and they will throw their entire weight on top of each other, along with these huge tusks. Like, it is really brutal to watch. So seeing these two, one very broken man, one very old crazy man, wrapped up in dead skin, sort of half-heartedly flopping on each other, was funny for lots of different reasons, but one of them was, this is as far away from a walrus fight as you can get.
Yeah.
Almost.
Yeah. I'm not going to forget that image for a while.
It felt a bit like... Have you guys seen The Mask of Zorro? The end fight... the end fight between Antonio Banderas and Anthony Hopkins. No, it's not. It's Antonio Banderas and the guy who he's against. They have a battle and they have a little fight and then they stop and they talk. So we'll be like, you did this to me. And then they'll have a fight, be like, well, I didn't want to do that. And all that crap. They do that in this one. They have a little flop at each other. I'm using my hands to show you guys. You guys can't see, but my hands are flopping against each other.
They are.
And I can't remember what he says every time, but at some point he's like, you've come the furthest so far. You have reached your like full walrus form.
And instead of replying, he just goes,
yeah. And then they carry on, and then he goes, well, I'm still human, and then comes out of the suit. And this is where Justin Long's character Wallace, the walrus, Mr. Tusk, beats him. He kind of just knocks him over and
he puts his tusk straight into his foot.
Yeah.
I've got to say that was an amateur move on our Psycho character's part. He should have remained suited up. He should have remained walrused, but he decided to step out of his shell, became vulnerable. Maybe that's what he wanted.
I was going to say, I feel like if you choose to look just a tiny little bit deeper into this film, you don't need to. It's not necessary. But if you choose to, I got the feeling that that's kind of what he wanted. Because it's revealed to us during this fight that he actually ate his friend Mr. Tusk out of desperation on this island. So there's obviously some serious psychological guilt going on there, and maybe this is how he feels he repays his debt. Yeah. Maybe, obviously, again. I'm probably thinking way too much into it.
I mean, it makes sense in what sense there is to be made of this.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So then, he gets him down on the floor, tusks him to shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is when his friends discover him.
Yeah.
I thought their reaction was pretty good, to be honest. As in, not well acted, but neither of them puked.
Yeah, I mean, they were kind of mentally... No, maybe not mentally, but they were sort of prepared for it, weren't they? They knew that there was a chance he was turning his captors into...
How mentally prepared can you be for the sight of your friend?
I'm trying to put myself in their shoes and picture running in and seeing Manny Walrus and...
I think it would just break you. And I don't think there would be any sort of legitimate reaction to that.
And we think that Johnny Depp's going to shoot him, but... He doesn't. We get a little...
black.
Yep, 1 year later. And you're thinking, please don't let him still be around.
Even though he obviously is going to be in some capacity.
And he's in possibly the worst animal sanctuary I've ever seen. He's basically in a cage of a paddling pool.
Do you know what I kind of would have preferred, right? I mean, it's a horror film in some ways. So it kind of has to be this slightly grim ending. But I kind of would have preferred if it was this amazing zoo and they walked in and he had this incredible...
harem.
Yeah, and was like really enjoying and embracing his life as a walrus. that would have made me like smile and laugh more, I think, than what we got.
I think that would have added to that would have been the moment at which you just knew that this movie was completely ridiculous.
And
I think it should have completely.
I like that. I think because it could have been like, what? So Howard was right. The happiest you could. Walrus is everything.
The highest stage of
we
evolution.
should make people walruses all the time.
Yeah, definitely. It would confirm his twisted manifesto.
Yeah. But instead, we get an incredibly sad scene.
More than anything, that pen makes me sad. It's awful. Yeah. It's really depressing.
When we were watching this, the scene where he comes out and his friends turn up and his girlfriend is there and she brings him a mackerel.
I love that you're saying mackerel.
She brings him a mackerel and goes it down to him and says, "I love you," and we get a flashback to a scene in which she says something like, she says something along the lines of, "It's good to cry, it's what separates us from the animals." And then we just get a scene of Walrus Justin Long just looking up and going, and tears coming from his eyes. I can't do it. It's the best. It's like the worst and best thing I've ever seen at the same time.
Followed up by some very emotive credit music.
And that's where the credits roll, and it's like a sad song over the end.
Written and directed by Kevin Smith.
Whilst a lonely beach ball floats around the surface of the dirty pond.
Oh.
Jesus.
Oh, my me.
It's kind of special. If you choose to see it
it's a standalone film, I think, that you can't... there will be comparisons, but it's Tusk. And I think most horror fans you'll know what Tusk is. You will, or it won't take long to explain it. And I reckon if anyone asked me what Tusk was and I said it's about what it is, I reckon a lot of people will be intrigued to watch this film. I was.
Of course. You have to be. I'm going to make comparisons to Pan's Labyrinth in that I think this movie is unique and maybe couldn't have been made by any other director other than the director who made it.
And this is the thing, it's not even his first attempt at horror. He did Red State, which don't want to go too much into, but that one wasn't very good either. I prefer this to Red State.
Yeah, Red State was forgettable.
Yeah.
It was really forgettable. This film I'm never going to forget for the rest of my life.
And to be fair, I think Kevin Smith would be happy with that. If I made something that you'd never forget, I'd be happy with that.
I think that was the intention. I just also think it was like some of the unforgettable nature of it is because it sucked.
Yeah.
Elements of it sucked like, hard. But you know, again, it's certainly memorable. Of course it is.
I think we should get to the more exciting bit of the podcast.
Let's do it.
Boy!
Yep. It's the decider. Whose independent horror film? Remake horror film?
Not independent.
Yeah, whose remake horror film?
Who's making the rules? It could be an independent.
It could be an independent remake. But whose remake we're going to be watching? There's 2 points up for grabs. This is the profit and loss section of the podcast where we discuss the profit or loss of this film. Okay, so we're going to go for the budget. Ruby, what do you think the budget was?
Oh, blimey. This wasn't like a Kickstarter or anything, was it?
Don't think so. No.
I don't think it was.
No.
I don't want to say it was.
Okay. I mean, this was a risky one for production companies, anyone, investors, anything like that.
Yeah.
I can't imagine a hell of a lot of money was thrown at it. If there was, it wasn't very obvious. Probably the most expensive thing on that set was Johnny Depp.
Probably.
I'm going to say 5 million.
Cool.
Alright, I'm gonna say... Cool, man, I reckon this was a bit of a low budget affair. Because it has to be. It has to be. I'm gonna go lower than you. I'm gonna say $1 million.
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm gonna say $1 million, I reckon. I think I'm wrong, but I'm gonna say
That'd be really, really cheap, right?
Yeah, ridiculously so.
I mean, it doesn't look shoddy. It's shot very...
It's shot okay, and
yeah.
It's got some decent stuff in there, but at the same time, you know, just like you said, the reason I'm going that low is I think you're spot on in that, like, there is no way that this movie... that investors wouldn't throw money at this. This is too weird.
Yeah.
It's too weird.
So someone has won a point there.
Okay.
Very close, this one.
Is it?
But Ruby won it. It was 3.2 million.
3.2.
So you won it by 0.2 of a million.
So literally, it was like kind of smack bang in the
Yeah,
middle.
yeah,
of
yeah.
It's kind of yeah.
You guys are getting good at this.
Yeah, we are. We are getting pretty good at it. Fair play.
But who's the best? We're about to find out. What was the profit or loss of this? What did it take at opening weekend at the box office?
Oh, God. I always find this one way harder. It made money.
Did it?
I think it made money.
I wouldn't be so sure.
Really?
No, man. I know this had some ridiculously bad word of mouth when it came out.
Do you know if it had like a general theatre release?
I think I'm not sure if it was like the widest release, but I know it definitely went to theatres for
Right.
sure. For sure it did. But I have a feeling I may have heard somewhere that this was a flop. And not to give any too much of a clue to you, 'cause this is meant to be a competition, but
He did make a sequel and is making not a sequel but a spin-off. I don't know how that plays
that's
out
true.
behind the scenes, but he did make a spin-off.
I'm going to let you two decide who goes first on this one.
I'll go first.
All right, yeah, go on.
Brave move.
I'm going to say that they just about doubled. I'm going to say 6 million
Okay.
profit.
Okay, I'm going to go with my gut feeling that this lost money. So this 3.2 mil, I'm going to say this grossed. I'm going to say this grossed million and a half, and I reckon they lost to about that much.
Okay. Well, Manny, I hope you've got your film ready because you just won. Yeah, it was made 1.8 million, so you were 0.3 off. Yeah, it did not do very well.
Oh no.
Yeah, no,
I feel like it would have done better now, and I didn't get the figures for that. I couldn't find them. It's quite hard to find. But I feel like now it would have, because it wouldn't have had to sell a ridiculous amount of DVD, and a lot of films do make money off DVD sales, even now. So especially with Blu-ray. So
yeah, of course.
Yeah, and obviously streaming, we paid £3.50 tonight. Yeah, so that's that. That may have tipped. It does. So what a Manny. Do you have any idea what you're going to go for, or would you like us to go through the bits to close out the show, and you can be the very last bit?
Or I might have some time to think about it, and we can announce it on the socials at some point during the week.
Okay, we'll go for that.
So I can come up, because so my initial, I like, that's the thing. The first thing that came to my head is the 1984. I think it's 1984 version of The Thing, because that's a remake of The Thing from the Other World, which was a 1940s film. But that's just me being a fanboy, because that's one of my favourite films of all time, and there could be something a bit more interesting. I kind of want to save The Thing a little bit, because it's a special movie, and we've gone over films that we've all gushed over the past 3 episodes. We want to go for maybe something a bit more niche, so maybe we'll think I'll give it a think
okay
over.
We'll do that. If you want to know what we're doing next week before we do it, check the social media, and before the next episode comes out next Thursday, we will have posted what we're going to be doing. So this is a test. Have you subscribed to us? We'll tell you how you can do that later on, but I think we should go through our reviews. If everyone's okay with us to go through the reviews,
All right.
Obviously, I'm going to give mine a 6.1.
Out of what, though?
Out of a 6.2.
10
I've loved it. Out of 10 walrus
we forgot to do this last
penis
week.
bones.
Yeah, that was what I would have gone for too.
Yeah, 10 walrus penis.
10 walrus penis bones.
I give it a 6.1 because I'm sticking so far to my I don't give.
Is that how you really feel?
Yeah, it is 6.1.
Oh, get out.
For real?
Yep, no. But for the purposes of me not wanting to admit to Manny that I was wrong and don't stick to what I say, it's a 6.1.
You're a stubborn one.
Yep. Whatever you do is going to be above a 6, mate. Ruby, your turn.
Okay. It made me laugh. It made me squirm a couple of times, a little bit, especially with that penis walrus suit thing. It didn't bore me.
No.
It really didn't. I wouldn't tell someone to stay away from it. I wouldn't necessarily push someone towards it, depending on their tastes, I guess. I'm going to say 4.5. Yeah, 4.5 out of 10 walrus penises. So much penis talk.
Walrus penis bones.
Sorry, yes.
I was mulling over my decision, and I was going to go for about a 4 for me personally. There's definitely redeeming qualities. I love the scenes with Justin Long and our psycho character, whose name I can't be bothered. Howard Howe. I love those scenes initially where he's figuring out how much of a psychopath he is. I really like that. It's certainly funny, but both for the right and the wrong reasons. But at the same time, it is also a mess, and some of it, in my opinion, totally falls on its face and is actually embarrassing. I feel embarrassed for the people involved in this film sometimes, and at other points I like it. So for me, about a 4 is about right.
Yeah, it's almost slightly too high production to be a straight up B movie.
Yes.
And too ridiculous B movie to be, a sensible, marketable.
It really does walk that line very awkwardly, I think.
Yeah.
The word I would use to describe this movie is awkward.
Would you call it a horror film?
It definitely uses genre tropes, for sure. There are moments in the film which are lifted directly from horror. I think that, there's some of those scenes with Howard Howell and some of the the initial reveal of the walrus, where it's gross, they're definitely straight out of horror. I think if you're a horror fan and you want a really insanely weird body horror thing that's also a comedy, that's also a send-up of Canadians, that's the thing. I do kind of wonder.
This is for you.
Yeah, who is this film for? Actually, I can tell you.
Kevin Smith fans.
I'll tell you who this is slightly for. I think this is considered to be a bit of a stoner film, and I can confirm that from the fact that if I'm not mistaken, I did read that Kevin Smith was indulging in the herbs while writing the script.
I was literally going to say earlier, how high were they?
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
I think Kevin Smith was actually like high when he wrote this
You would
script.
have to.
He
As a
also
kite.
he also had a bunch of head shops release a strain. Like a strain like that's sort of, you know how you get like a McDonald's Happy Meals that tie into big movies. It was like a strain of weed released in like a weed shop, like that was like an official Tusk strain that you were meant to smoke before going to watch the film. You know, which
That might have helped.
So I think this is for people who are inebriated and
Yeah, very much like that sort of Drag Me to Hell era sort of genre thing. I would definitely put the comedy way ahead of the horror.
yeah,
on
massively,
this.
massively. I laughed more than I was like creeped out. Massively, of course.
Yeah, I still think that even though it was painful at times, stupid at times, I'm still glad I watched it. I feel that if I hadn't have watched it, I would have always thought about watching it.
Yeah.
And I feel that any horror fan, if you told them what happens in this film or the idea of this film, I don't think they'll be able to get it out of their heads until they've seen it.
Yeah, no.
It's just a shame that you have to go through an hour and 41 minutes to get to the end.
It's a shame that the premise is often much better than the execution.
Exactly.
I think, for sure. But it's a one-off. It's a proper one-off. Like this film's never going to be made again. But whether or not you think that's a great or a bad thing, I think depends a lot up to the individual. But for me personally, it's a below average kind of a thing. So.
Well, that was the first one that we haven't completely gushed over.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
See, we're not just all a bunch of fanboys and fangirls.
No, so that was episode 4 of the Let's Watch Horror podcast. We'll just give you our Twitter and our social media handles. Also, I've noticed that we're getting a few listeners on different platforms now, and we'd really like to kind of start getting a few reviews back, just so we can kind of get an idea of how you guys are feeling about the podcast and what you like about it, what you don't like about it, just so we can kind of improve it. I know that the last episode was an incredibly long one, and I just want to know if people like that, because this one's quite a lot shorter. We did that a little consciously just because we want to test and see if we can actually fit a film into, less than an hour and a half or shorter than the film.
We're still experimenting.
Yeah, so if you're watching on iTunes or anything that you could give a review, could we please ask that you do? That would be really cool. We would love to see that. Yeah. And we've already enjoyed reading the ones we've already got. It's so cool to people actually listening to this. So thank you very much for that.
We love constructive criticism.
Yes.
Emphasis on constructive.
Our Twitter handle is @WatchHorrorPod, all one word. And that's been really fun. We're almost closing down on that 500 subscribers or followers.
Boy.
So yeah, keep following. It'll be so cool when we get there. And you never know, by the time next episode comes out, we may be saying thank you so much for getting us there. So that'll be awesome. Our Instagram is
Let's Watch Horror Pod.
Yep. And our Facebook is the same. So once again, thank you very much for listening, and thank you to Tommy Musgrove for our amazing artwork. Yep. So thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you next episode, and remember to check our social media to find out what we'll be reviewing next week.
I'll give it a good think.
Thank you very much, guys. Goodbye.